Broadcasting live from the wind-scarred crag on the plain of Dominaria, this is Tap Tap Concede. Welcome, everybody, to Tap Tap Concede. My name is Graham. Joining me is Kathleen.
Wee!
And Nelson.
It's me. Hi.
And today we're going to be talking about Mom, March of the Machine.
Yeah.
Yeah, and sort of early impressions from what little the three of us have managed to dabble with the set. And before we do that, I'm going to remind you that the show is brought to you by Card Kingdom. Please check out cardkingdom.com/LRR for all of your cardboard needs. Get yourself some March of the Machine. Or pre-order some March of the Machine Aftermath. I don't know if that's available for pre-order yet, but do that. Also, let them know that we sent you, and you'll get a little 1-inch button, maybe, because I think they're running low and I need to send them more. Also, this show and everything we do is brought to you by you and your kind support of our Patreon at patreon.com/loadingreadyrun. Thank you so much. Hey, we did the pre-release last week.
We sure did.
And we did a... Did we? We didn't do a tap recording this time, did we?
No, we didn't.
Right. I was about to say, and we heard from the guests, but we didn't. So we didn't get to hear anyone's food hot takes this time, which is a shame.
Oh, that's okay. Next time for next PPR, I'll make sure I ask lots about food.
PPR went really well. It was the actual broadcast of it was super smooth and fun, and lots of people tuned in, and everyone's enjoying the VOD. If you haven't seen it, it's up on the YouTube channel now already. So look for that. Wonderful bunch of guests, fun games. At least they were fun for me. Because my deck was silly. I kind of want to just start there, actually, because I didn't really process how big a deal the Multiverse Legends were going to be.
No.
For Limited. I was like, oh, okay, cool, right, yeah, they're doing a sheet of, like, those things. Sure, right, okay, so, like, the Mystical Archive, which I loved, and the Brothers War Artifacts, which I very much enjoyed, not as much as I like the Mystical Archives.
Artifacts are more niche.
Yeah, these seem much more game warping. They're not all busted, but some of them are real terrifying.
They're all legendary creatures.
Yeah, and generally that's pretty powerful.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know how to evaluate where to take them in draft.
So the Mystical Archives included cards like Mind's Desire and Tendrils of Agony, which are...
Time Warp.
Well, okay, I mean, that's less of a good example for what I'm talking about.
Sorry.
But, like, there were a set of cards within Mystical Archives that are like, you might not play this in draft. There were also cards like Time Warp and Putrefy where you're like, okay, yeah, if you can play this, play this. Like, you got these colors, play this card. It's a good spell. But it's still spells. And then the Bro... what were they called again? The extra artifacts from time before?
Were they excavated or the...
Anyways,
I can't remember yet.
The bonus sheet, whatever it was called. Sorry, Bro designers. I forgot the name of your thing. They had like a few stinkers too.
Ivory Tower.
Yeah, Ivory Tower was in there. Wasn't there like Tormod's Crypt, which was relevant sometimes?
Yeah, there was a artifact. I can't remember it. It was like a greenish rock.
Sure.
I can't remember what it was, but it was just sort
Neither
of like...
can it, right?
It was, it was like, is this good in draft? I don't think so.
Yeah, a bunch of situational stuff.
Yeah.
There was also Wormcoil, like there were nutty ones in there too.
Keening Stone.
But the thing about the... What's it called again? Legends from the Multiverse?
Multiverse Legends.
Multiverse Legends is they're all creatures, right? The fundamental building block of what you want to pick up in draft.
Yeah.
You can build a deck only taking creatures from your draft packs, but that's not true of any other card type generally. I don't know. Maybe they'll eventually give us an all lands booster draft, but that would really be pushing the envelope. So naturally, this one was gonna be kind of great unless they made sure that the exciting legends that they put in the set of Multiverse Legends cards you can get in a pack weren't great, but they didn't do that at all.
No. So you've got you have from Amonkhet, you have Emoti, who I did run in my 5-color PPR deck, by the way, but in a typical draft, it's 5 mana for a 3/1. With Cascade, okay, sure. And then spells with mana value 6 or greater have Cascade. That means to really want to run this in your deck, you're in a very specific deck that has enough 6 mana spells.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, this is not a high pick, right? There's another one. There was one of the Ronas, I think, one of the earlier ones.
Okay.
I don't remember exactly which one.
4 mana Rona that can come back from the
I
graveyard,
think so,
maybe?
yeah. Sheldred's Faithful. It's a 3/4. You can get it back from the graveyard whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell. Each opponent loses 1 life. Sure, that's a fine creature, but
It's hard to
that's
cast.
Yeah, that's not like
Yeah.
necessarily going to break the format wide open. But then there's also, I mean, even honestly, even Ragavan is not like, if you get Ragavan on turn 1, great, right? But this isn't constructed. You don't have 4 copies, right? Generally speaking, it's going to be good, but not actually like quite as busted in a draft as certainly Ragavan is in Modern Pioneer. What's Ragavan broke? Modern, okay.
Yeah, not legal in Pioneer, I don't believe.
But then you got stuff like Kenrith, who was never in draft before.
No.
I forgot that Kenrith was the box topper, right? Kenrith is silly in limited Magic. This is ridiculous. So if you haven't watched the PPR, spoilers, but my deck was just sort of spread kind of thinly across all the colors with nothing that really jumped out, but some bombs across the different colors. And so I looked at the fixing that I had. More on that in a moment because it's very good in this set. And I just went, all right, I'm just going to try and do 5-color nonsense because it's the PPR and it'll be fun and silly. Turns out this was reliably powerful. Now, granted, I drew Kenrith every game I played. But, yeah. So fixing-wise, now this was sealed, so you might be able to do better in draft, or maybe people are taking the lands more highly. I don't know. But I had 4 of the dual lands, because there's that cycle of the Khans of Tarkir lands that enter tapped and you gain a life. So I had 4 of those in different colors. I had 2 copies of Blighted Burgeoning, which is this green enchantment with set mechanic. We've seen this kind of thing a bunch of times, most recently on Arena in Weirding Wood, which it does exactly the same thing, but you get a clue.
Right.
There's one where you get a +1/+1 counter on a creature. This one is 2 and a green for a land enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, you incubate 2, and then whenever the enchanted land is tapped for mana, you add an additional mana of any color. So it helps fix. It ramps you kind of. If you play this on turn 4, then you can enchant your untapped land and then immediately tap it to transform your incubate token. So there's that, which I guess is nice. And then the other fixing, which I think is the most exciting and potentially most powerful one, is the cycle of cyclers. There's a
basic land cyclers.
They're
right?
not even basic. Okay. That's
land
the funny part.
Type cyclers, right?
So my favorite being Alabaster Host Intercessor. So this is the white one. So it's that's the Sanctifier. There we go. 5 and a white for a 3/4 Phyrexian Samurai. Kind of cool. It's got planes cycling too. I'll get to the other ability in a second. It's got planes cycling. So yeah, any planes doesn't have to be basic, which is kind of fun. There are no non-basic lands.
Yeah, I immediately checked.
In the set,
but maybe it makes it a bit more exciting for commander players.
I
right?
think so. Yeah, I think that's
your Temple Garden
nice
with your
thing to
removal
have.
spell. Yeah.
And so there's a cycle of these. There's one in each color, and I had 5. I only ran 3, but I ran the black one, the green one, and the white one. So this one also says when it enters the battlefield, exile target creature an opponent controls until this leaves the battlefield. So it's a Fiend Hunter as a 3/4 for 6, which is already not terrible. 4 toughness is pretty good.
Yeah.
The other day at the early access event, Adam and I think actually Adam and James drafted this deck, but this with the battle Invasion of Tolvada, which the battle ETBs and you get something from your graveyard to the battlefield. So it was like cycle the Intercessor to get your planes to cast Invasion of Tolvada, then reanimate your Intercessor and exile something. Pretty good line of play.
Nice.
Because then it clears the way for you to hit the invasion, which, by the way, the flip side of this invasion at the Broken Sky is wild. I guess we'll talk about battles in a little bit. But the Broken Sky, creature tokens you control, it's enchantment. Creature tokens you control get +1/+1 lifelink. It's cool. Where am I going to get creature tokens? Oh, you get a 1/1 spirit with flying at the end of every turn. Well, your turn. Anyway, so that was ridiculous.
Because I didn't actually. You're right. We did draft this deck, and then I left because we had 2 of these.
Yes.
How did that deck do?
Oh, that deck was very good.
Hell yeah!
That deck was very, very strong. 2 Invasion of Tolvada and the Alabaster Host Intercessors both put in put in some good work. Because again, you're getting with the Broken Sky, you're getting a 2/1 lifelink flyer every one of your end steps, and that was powerful.
Angry ghosts.
Yeah.
What if Bitter Blossom cost 5 mana and 4 damage?
Yeah. So, there are some big bombs in the Multiverse Legends. But again, not all of them. There are some that are absolutely busted, but not all of them. But also, there's just some rares in the set that are also just very, very strong. Did you know that they reprinted Monastery Mentor?
I noticed, yeah.
In the set at Mythic, but just in the set, normal, not a Multiverse Legend because it's not legendary, but just like in there. There's just some very, very powerful rares. I like the Doomscar. Is it just Doomscar Warrior? It's 2 green for a 4/3 with backup 1 and trample. And again, remember that backup means they also get this ability for a turn. Whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player or battle, look at that many cards from the top of your library. You may reveal a creature or land card from among them, put it into your hand, and put the rest in the bottom of your library in a random order. So you play this, you put that on something else. It hits for 3. You just get to look at the top 3 cards and then just take
Draw
something
a creature.
from. Yeah, and it's pretty cool. I don't know. There's good stuff in this set. I think this is a powerful set. That said, we also, yesterday when playing with Adam, we had some games with some very interesting decks that went very long, that were not just sort of like, oh, it's all over. Because turns out a lot of removal going around as well.
Yeah, I was about to say, I have managed to squeeze in 2 drafts by playing between 10 p.m. last night and 10 a.m. this morning.
Okay.
So maybe I was not the most involved, maybe I wasn't at my freshest when doing these. But I got absolutely destroyed 1/3 both of them. And I think I was like, wow, look at this great creature. Look at this great creature. Look at that great creature. And I did not take removal highly enough. And you want removal in this format because there's too many busted creatures. And if you can do something like there's the Phyrexian removal that gives you an incubate token as well, so you get kind of removal and kind of a creature.
There's a 4 or 5 mana common black removal spell that also incubates. Is that right?
Is this the 6 mana?
Well, maybe it's
Oh,
six.
yeah.
There's 4. I can't remember the name of it. It's the one with Urabrask being disassembled. It's 4 black for an instant. It is instant, so that's nice. And it's exile a creature and you incubate 3. So there's that one. I can't remember the name of it for some reason. There's also Deadly Derision.
So you
which
get a treasure
is
token.
2 black, destroy something, and you get a treasure. That's also instant.
Right. This is what I was thinking of, actually.
Okay,
yeah.
cool,
So this is common.
Yeah.
But the 6 mana one's probably common as well.
It's also common.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I can't
Vanquish the Weak.
Oh yeah, Vanquish the
Week
Weak.
is back. Okay.
Yeah.
There's some really good white removal. There's it's the Wanderer's Strike or something like that.
Oh, that card's so
It's got
annoying.
Convoke. It's 2 and a white to just instant destroy target tapped creature, so they get you on attacks.
Right.
It's very weirdly
Or on
templated.
Convokes. Right.
Yeah.
It's very weirdly templated. It's destroy target planeswalker that activated an ability this turn or tapped creature.
Neat.
Yeah. So the way that it's worded is you think that the planeswalker is tapping something. Okay, thank you, James. So Merciless Repurposing is the 6 mana common exile effect. Incubate 3, which is pretty cool. And then it was something strike. I thought the white one. It's 2 and a white with Convoke. Anyway, that one's really annoying because again you can't predict that it's coming. I mean, Stoke the Flames also. There's a red 2 mana spell that deals 3 damage to something, and then you get to put a card from your hand. You optionally put a card from your hand on the bottom of your library and draw a card if you have too many lands or something, or not enough lands. There's in white that we already talked about the Intercessor. There's also an O-ring with Ward 3 and the cheapest arrest they've ever printed.
Again?
yes.
They just
Yeah.
gave us a 2 mana arrest in the last set.
Yeah, Planar
Right,
Disruption.
in one, yeah,
Yeah, this one I can't remember
It's,
the name of it. These cards are all very new.
Sure.
It's crushing. It's crushing like a Selesnya monument.
Mm-hmm.
I can picture it.
Yeah.
Okay, so 2
Realm
mana.
Breaker's
Realm
Grasp.
Breaker's
Thank
Grasp.
you.
So
Was that helpful, James?
So this is just artifact or
Yeah.
creature.
Yes, artifact or creature, but it can't attack or block, and activated abilities can't be activated.
More 2
So-
mana arrests.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
and
you-
there's the Oblivion Ring we were just
Seal
talking
from
about.
existence, yeah. The Realm Breaker's Grasp, you can.
Why does this have Ward 3? I'm sorry.
Right?
Yeah. I guess it's slightly harder to cast.
You
Okay.
can.
Oh, because they gave green an uncommon that could destroy an enchantment, and they didn't want it to be too good.
Okay.
Grasp can't. If you're desperate, this can enchant incubate tokens, and then they can't flip them up.
Right, because they're artifacts all the time, even when they're not creatures.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, even if they did flip it up in response, if they had the mana open, it wouldn't be able to attack because it's would then be a creature, and that's sort of irrelevant. I don't know why I brought that up. So that's and then in green you got Cosmic Hunger, which deals. It's just a big punch.
That's
It's
the punch. Yeah.
instant speed punch, and it can also hit battles, which is again we'll talk about battles, but that's relevant. And then what else is there in green? There's some battles that fight as well.
There's the Invasion of Moag, which fights.
There's Moag. It puts the counters.
Oh, but then it does a punch, doesn't it?
No, Moag is the counters for all
right.
creatures. There's another one, another green one.
Muraganda?
Maybe, yeah. All right, Tandem Takedown is 2 creatures get +1/+0 until end of turn, and then they each deal damage equal to their power to another creature, planeswalker, or battle. So it's kind of similar to Band Together.
Yeah, so I drafted a red-green deck, which I thought was pretty fun because I had some really powerful cards in there, and honestly was doing great, except I kept dying in the air to, like, flyers.
Yeah.
But I never saw a single one of these cards, so I clearly was not taking the right green card. I thought green was open, and it was not.
That's a funny thing that can happen, especially your first few drafts of any set.
Yeah.
Where you're like, this is great. I'm getting all the cards I want. And then sometimes you like have the strange experience where you're like, oh, okay, this common that I really want a third copy of is in this pack, but I'll take this rare. And then like it tables and you're like, oh, wait. Maybe I'm like aggressively drafting the B team of this color, right? Like maybe like it looked like I had a solid plan and I got everything I wanted, but it turns out that my deck is just way worse than the good version of the same color.
Yeah,
It
I'm
could be like the
missing-
same 2-color pair, but there's a way better style you could be.
Yeah, I'm
drafting,
missing
right?
like 6 key cards here, but I
Right.
don't even know what they are because other people are taking them before I see them.
Yeah.
There are a lot of good combat tricks as well. It's wild going right from Shadows over Innistrad Remastered, which we didn't even really talk about on this show, but was great. But Aim High in Shadows Remastered was 1 and a green to give a creature +2/+2 and untap that creature, and it gains reach. Right? This set, slice that generic mana off there. Arachnoid Adaptation, I think, is a single green mana for the same
No.
effect.
Even
Yeah.
the second point of power, usually when they do this effect for 1 mana, it only gives +1 power.
Yeah, no, it's
Wild.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this card's great.
this is
Yeah.
very strong.
Okay, sorry, I hadn't seen this one yet. I don't think anyone cast this during the PPR while I was
No.
switching. Yeah.
So again, because flyers, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty good. And there's the white one. Can't remember the name of it already. It's got Elspeth. It's the like Elspeth showing up as the Deus Ex, as it gives the creature protection from a color, or it gives gives a permanent protection from a color. Creature or planeswalker. There you go. If it's a creature,
James is really working this morning.
yeah, sorry, James. If it's a creature, you put a +1/+1 counter on it.
Right.
So it's not God's Willing. I can't remember the name of it, but there's one that gave you pro a color and put a counter on stuff. But yeah, pretty cool. Angelic Intervention, by the way. I haven't actually said the name of this card out loud. So
There's also Aerial Boost,
Aerial Boost
which is
is
interesting too.
oh yeah,
with
one
Convoke. Nice.
Oh, 1 and a white, Convoke. Target creature gets +2/+2 and gains flying until end of turn. Important thing to remember about Convoke, which we didn't actually mention during the PPR, is that most cost reduction mechanics only can reduce the cost of the generic mana, whereas Convoke can also reduce the color mana if you tap a creature of that color. So they can be completely tapped out of all of their lands, and if they have creatures, they can. Oh, in fact, there's a black Convoke removal spell that gives a creature -3/-3, and it's 2 and a black with Convoke. So again, it's something you can just cast for free. And you have to remember with sort of your sequencing when you're like, I only have this much mana this turn, but if I can tap 4 of my 5 mana to play a 4-drop, and then I will have 1 open land and 2 creatures, so I can cast this 3-drop removal spell, not for free, but like I'll be able to just keeping Convoke in mind for how you sequence and how you play your cards is tricky. And it's gonna catch people out being like, oh shoot, I could have done that in a more efficient way that allowed me to play this creature and leave this mana up to do this thing. Convoke's an interesting one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like worth noting the other
collective nightmare. Thank you, James.
Cost reduction ability that's the most similar to Convoke is Improvise from Kaladesh or Ether Revolt, and that one specifically only reduces by the generic mana when you tap artifacts. But like you say, Convoke, you can have free spells.
Mm-hmm. So
scary.
Yeah. So pump spells, this one, and Stoke the Flames, all going to be important ones to watch out for. Doing the math on whether or not your opponent could cast any given combat trick like these ones.
And that's. So removal, I assume that the quality of removal is sort of is so high because battles are such an important mechanic, and if no one ever hits a battle, then that's a big mechanic that just isn't happening. And so far, boy, I think battles are sweet. Right. Honestly, they work really well in gameplay. Obviously, we did them at the PPR. We had the early access event yesterday, and we're playing them a lot. In Arena, I think it's handled very cleanly. You play the battle, and then it goes to your opponent's side of the board because you control it, but they're defending it. And if you can do the thing where you play a battle and are able to use its front side ability to clear the way to then take it down immediately, that's incredibly strong. So, like I said, with Tolvada reanimating specifically that intercessor, but there's the Invasion of Kamigawa that taps a creature and puts a stun counter on that creature when it enters the battlefield. There's as you said,
Invasion of Moag that gives it every single creature you control a +1/+1 counter.
Yeah, that card's messed up. That's an uncommon, by the way.
Yeah,
2 green-white for that one.
Yeah, I resolved that one, and it was always good because I just got a lot of value right away. Right, like I got 3, sometimes 4 counters. That's a lot of power for 4 mana.
For those watching the video, we are aware that the when the battle is being displayed, it is somewhat obscuring Kathleen on the screen.
Hi, hello.
Kathleen's still here.
Yeah.
Do not adjust your
hiding
screens.
Behind some of the invasion.
We control the vertical and the horizontal.
Well, I'd be a coward in battle anyhow. I would not be out at the front, so this is fine.
The something that I thought was super relevant is again, Adam and I were playing. We had the Xerax something night. I can't remember what this is. I love this.
There's just the one card from Xerax, right?
And there's an invasion
Strobe
as well.
Knight.
Right,
yeah,
the
there's
Strobe
the invasion
Knight.
of Xerax and there's Xerax Strobe Knight.
So 2 and a blue for a 2/2 human knight with flying and vigilance. There is in blue-white, there is a knight sub-theme, and there are some cards that care about knights, and some of them can be pretty powerful. But in this case, so it's 2/2 flying and vigilance, which is already great. A Windrake with vigilance, sold. But then it has this other ability, and you tap it to create a 2/2 white and blue knight token, also with vigilance. You can only activate it if you've cast 2 or more spells this turn. So something that we realized that we hadn't thought of course.
Wow, what a good card. Holy moly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we had this in play. We played Invasion of Kamigawa, tapping one of their creatures down. Hit the Invasion of Kamigawa with this and one other creature for 4.
Cast the backside.
Then you cast the backside of it for free, which is the Saboteurs or whatever, the backside of the Invasion
of Kamigawa, not Kaladesh there.
Yeah, Rooftop Saboteurs, sorry, which is a 2/3 flyer that whenever it deals combat damage to a player or battle, draw a card. But because we cast the battle and then cast the Rooftop Saboteurs, that was 2 spells. So then we could activate the Xerax Strobe Knight on the same turn. That was a very powerful turn of limited magic, let me tell you, folks.
Nice.
So yeah, you are. There are a couple cards in the set, not that many, but there are a few cards that care about casting more than 1 spell in a turn. And both sides of the battle count if you do it on the same turn.
I got to watch a similarly powerful avalanche of value before you had showed up. James and Adam were playing against Kenji.
Oh, yes.
And James got to resolve his Itali and then cast, I think, Kenji's 8/8 trample hexproof off of the Itali
Yeah, was
trigger.
that yours or his? The bear rhino.
Right.
That was his,
Oh.
I believe. I think it was his. I can't remember, but I
Yeah.
think it was his.
Yeah, Itali is a messed up card. This is what I'm talking about. It's like the multiverse legends are not the problem. There are just bombs in this format, and Itali is definitely one of them. Itali, I can't remember
Kind of
the-
Phyrexianized Itali.
Yeah, I can't remember the.
Giant scary dinosaur.
We're just
Now also
pulling it
poison
up.
counters.
I can't remember the.
Yeah,
the,
it turns
the
into a
name.
white steel colossus.
Primal Conqueror. There we go.
Primal
So it's
Conqueror.
5 red, 7 mana, but it is a 7/7 trample. And then this is messed up. When Itali enters the battlefield, each player exiles cards from the top of their library until they exile a non-land card. You may cast any number of spells, so you get both of them if you want, without paying their mana cost. So that's already ridiculous. And yeah, they played Itali. They got like a 1/2 goblin with fire breathing and this 8/8 hexproof trample Phyrexian bear rhino for free, which is ridiculous. And then you can, with 9 generic mana and a Phyrexian green, so 10 mana or 9 mana and 2 life, you can transform Itali into Itali Primal Sickness, which, yeah, is an 11/11 trample, indestructible, and whenever it deals combat damage to player, they get that many poison counters. It's very silly.
Mm-hmm.
Must have been such an impressive, labor of, many multidisciplinary things going on to complete the elder dinosaurs of Ikoria, right?
Yeah.
Just these like giant beasts. Like, okay, like we got to take this thing down and like not quite kill it or whatever, and then we got to build a lab or drag it back to Phyrexia, and then eventually we get a fancier Blightsteel Colossus.
Yeah.
They have like
Kudos to Kenji though; he almost won that game. If he had a pump spell or something, he was going to get there.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
They have like converter stuff that apparently they can convert on the go now. There's
Oh,
like
I
some of
see.
the pods on Realmbreaker are like incubator pods. They
Oh.
throw you in there.
Of course.
Egg. So, actually,
There's
yeah.
a Realmbreaker MacGuffin, of course. Yeah.
I want to talk about that mechanic. Before that, I want to talk about this mechanic, which is the Phyrexian transform cards. These are pretty good. So there's a bunch of them. I don't know if there's firm cycles or if there's just several of these. There's at least a common and an uncommon cycle. I think there might just be more, but they're creatures that you have a fairly normal creature on one side, and then you can pay an amount of generic mana and an off-color Phyrexian activation cost. So you could pay that with mana, or if you're not in those 2 colors, if you're only in the color to cast the front side, you can pay 2 life, and then you transform the card. And I think every one of them is pretty powerful and good,
We
honestly.
saw these get played to the PPR, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, it seemed like the common ones were like choice commons, even if you weren't in that spare color.
Yeah, I think it's generally worth it to pay to run these, even if you are in a position where you have to pay the life.
Yeah.
We had a deck in the early access event that was the blue-green cares about transformed permanents
Oh.
deck.
Yeah, Notvold Hermit is very good.
Novel Hermit was cool. We had 3 copies of Invasion of Perulia. So it's a 2-mana battle, blue and green. And when it enters the battlefield, you look at the top 3 cards of your library. Sorry, you scry 3. Then you reveal the top card of your library. And if it's a double-faced card or a land, you draw it. So that's pretty easy to draw a card off of this because generally you're going to hit a land. Again, we did have 3 of these. But on the back side of it, it's this slab horn, something slab horn. It's a 4/4 gargantuan.
slab horn.
It's a 4/4 with trample and ward 2, and other transformed permanents you control have trample and ward 2. So we had this, like I said, 3 of these, and the Mutagen Connoisseur, which is the 0/5 flying vigilance that gets +1/+0 for each transformed permanent you control. And then just a bunch of other transform cards. There was like a There's like a 2/1 flyer for 2. It's a Welkin turn that can block. And then if you transform it turns into a 2/4 that does something when it transforms. A 2/4 flyer that does something when it transforms. Like
Something
again,
akin to drawing a card. Right?
yeah, looking at the top X cards of your library. I can't remember exactly what it is that it does. And yeah, we were attacking with the Mutagen Connoisseur as a 5-power flyer just because we had a bunch of transform permanents. Like you can do the blue-green cares about cards being transformed deck, and it was very cool. The deck also had a Rixmathes, which is one of the multiverse legends. The giant island fish.
Nice.
That you have to cast spells to wake it up. Also, I mean, really the star of this deck, despite the fact that I'm talking about the transform mechanic, was Zimone and Dina. So this is whenever you draw your second card. Sorry, 3/4 for Sultai. Black, green, blue.
Already such a good color combination.
You're
Yeah.
the best Tiny Leers commander.
Yeah, holy moly. 3 mana, 3/4. Whenever you draw your second card each turn, each opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. So remember I was talking about we have the invasions of Perulia, right? That's drawing a card. It says draw a card on that. So if you have Zimone and Dina in play, you draw your card for the turn. You play Invasion of Perulia, you draw another land off that, and then you're draining your opponent for 2. And you're drawing into more lands, which help you with the second ability here, which is tap and sack another creature, draw a card. You can put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield tapped. If you control 8 or more lands, you repeat this process once, which is a way for you to draw 2 cards on their turn.
Oh.
Yeah, Zamonadina is squinting here. Mythic? Yes. Yeah.
No. Are they?
Yeah, that's mythic. Yeah,
Hard to tell
Zamonadina's
with the gold border, isn't it?
Zamonadina's very, very good. Very, very powerful card. But yeah, that was a goofy.
So you want
Goofy deck.
tokens to make.
Yeah, or like we sacked real creatures as well because it was like, well,
They are
let's
replacing themselves.
let's draw 2 cards and drain our opponent for 2, and then
Yeah.
Chump blockers
get
in
more
combat.
slab horns, you know. So yeah, that was very cool. The transform matters was interesting. Green white has a counters theme that is real scary with backup. They have the signpost uncommon is the one. It's a green white 0/0 with trample, and it enters with 2 counters, and then it's worded a little weirdly, but it's whenever you put a counter on another thing, if it's the first time a counter was put on that thing this turn, then you also put a counter on this thing, the Botanical Brawler. Card art referencing a combat trick from Ravnica, I think.
Yeah. So this is
Seeds of Strength or something?
Yeah, this is
Oh,
a.
cool, okay.
Despite it not looking, I believe this is a Ravnican card.
I think so, yeah, because it says it's an elemental warrior, and it looks kind of Selesnish.
Yeah.
And
They have elementals on Ravnica.
it would be in these colors, right? And I don't remember the name of the combat trick, but it has a centaur, a less elemental looking centaur, doing the same pose.
Yeah.
Anyway, but also one that we saw this morning was there's a Kami. It's a green card, and it taps for mana. I think it's a 3 mana green
yeah,
card.
I like this card.
Taps for mana, and it has a similar thing, which is like if a counter would be put. It's like a hardened scales on legs.
Extra hardened scales, but then it also taps for mana equal to its power, doesn't it?
Oh, is that what it does? Shoot,
I think
gotta
this-
find.
I think this is a 3 mana green uncommon, James.
I think it is a Kami of something.
Kami of Whispered Hopes.
That sounds right.
That sounds right. That sounds like a card that exists. I don't. Is it that one? Let's find out. We're Kami of Whispered Hopes. You nailed it. Yeah, 2 and a green for a 1/1 spirit. Add X mana of any one color where X is. Yep, you're right. The Whispered Hopes power, and then if 1 or more counters would be put on a permanent you control, put that many +1 counters on that permanent instead. So yeah, it is. It's hardened scales on a stick, which is preposterous. And so both of those creatures with backup.
Right.
I didn't kill this fast enough because my opponent was like, backup. Now it's a 3/3. Oh, right. Okay. And then they tap now they tap it for 3 mana, and then they cast another, like the Doomscar Warrior that I mentioned, and now a different thing has 2 extra counters on it. And I'm like, oh, suddenly I've just lost this game.
Right.
Wow, okay. So, yeah, is this The card frame on this tells me this is like a game day promo as well or something. It's in the set, to be clear, but this must be some sort of. This is usually the frame that they use for like
Yeah.
LGS promos.
Looks
yeah, there we
like
go.
R&D expects that this will find its way into a constructed deck at some point.
It looks pretty cool to me.
Yeah.
Hardened Scales did that. So did the Snake. This is 3 mana, but it's
Yeah.
also a mana dork with like a really high upside.
Mm-hmm.
So
And then we should talk about eggs.
okay, let's talk about eggs.
Eggs.
I've been really into Shin Ramen with like a
man.
hard boiled or not soft boiled egg, or figured out I haven't tried this, but the TikToks I've been watching, you can just toss the egg in and then put the whole thing in a microwave. So I'm gonna try that. I'll report back.
Really?
Yeah.
Please do.
Yeah, I've been like experimenting a bit more with like, okay, let microwave foods. There's maybe more depth to it. I as a child I was like, okay, this is what you do when you don't want food that's good, but you don't want to dirty any dishes, and you just want to eat now. And then as an adult, I've been like, okay, pizza pops go in the microwave and bags of popcorn and like nothing else. Just make yourself cook the food like a normal person. But now I'm in my third microwave era where it's like, okay, if you do it right, there's enough moisture in the bowl or whatever, like enough water in there, like you could use the microwave to some.
I'm heavily.
There's maybe
I'm
some
gonna
things you
speak
can
for-
achieve. You know, like,
Yeah.
There's some tricky like, oh, this is you wouldn't know it's microwaved.
I'm going to speak for both of us. We're heavily invested in ramen hacks.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
nice.
Oh,
Okay, great.
absolutely.
Yeah.
The best ramen hack, I think, is the one where you make you boil your noodles,
Yeah.
and then you in your bowl where you add like half to 3/4 of the seasoning packet, depending how salty you like your food. A big old squirt of mayonnaise.
Okay.
Ideally, Kewpie mayo.
Yes.
QP, what's QP, man?
It's Japanese mayonnaise.
So it's like
They have
a
it at the
little
grocery store?
creamier and sweeter.
Instead of just made from eggs, it's made from egg yolks specifically.
Oh,
So
wow,
it's just a little richer.
All right. All right.
And then crack an egg in there, and then whisk it all together, and then you have like this gooey slurry,
Yeah.
and then you can do like a microplaned clove of garlic if you're really feeling fancy.
Okay.
And then when the noodles are done, you drain them, and you reserve like I don't know, like 2 tablespoons
Just
of
a
water.
little bit of pasta water.
Just a
little
little
bit.
bit of pasta water. Throw that in there, and then mix your noodles in and give it a good swish.
Yeah. And then you drop some chives and black sesame seeds on it, and then you take photos, and boom, 1 million followers on Instagram.
You can do
It's
that.
very good.
Super tasty. It's a great way to turn instant noodles into like something that feels more meaningful for a lunch. You know?
Yeah, and your cost is still like I don't know, like a buck. How much is an egg?
Lately, 50 cents.
All right, well, you get lunch for like we'll say it's $1.75 by the time you've added the garlic and the mayonnaise.
But I will say, now, Justin Trudeau didn't say this, but Joe Biden apparently tweeted recently that grocery prices came down this month in March or whatever. Like that grocery prices apparently are starting to come down, or last week or something.
I wonder if that's going to hold true in Canada.
Hopefully in Canada that will happen too, because they have
doubt it.
not come down yet. But yeah, that would be nice.
But they're having so much fun making record profits.
I think not until an angry no-name mob assaults Galen Weston's house.
I mean, they did like make them show up to Parliament or whatever and grill them, but that seems to have
Gave
been
himself
a parade.
Bonus.
Right.
What are
Yeah.
we talking about? Magic the Gathering?
Well, eggs. You mentioned eggs.
Oh, right. I forgot actually how we got onto that topic.
Oh, and I wanted to say hard-boiled eggs too. Sorry, I said hard-boiled eggs first. It wasn't for food. It's because I had hard-boiled eggs on the mind because we do Easter like painted
Oh, right.
eggs.
Yeah.
Got some Ukrainian ancestry, but just did hard-boiled eggs this year instead of actually like blowing the yolks out with the pin, and because so much work.
Yeah, we always used to do hard-boiled egg. We'd like draw on them with crayon. Right?
Yeah.
Because then the wax, and then you dye them in the food coloring. But yeah, we do hard-boiled eggs because blowing the stuff out of the eggs is just
It's
a
a
pain.
lot of work. And then also if you do a good job, you're like, I have this beautiful egg. I have to like keep this now and then bring it out next Easter. And it's like that is awesome. Like they're gorgeous if you do a good job, but it's also like extra work and like you own more things.
Mm-hmm.
So consumable eggs this Easter at Nellie's house. All right.
Cream
What-
eggs.
But Phyrexian eggs.
What mesh
Oh.
cards are we talking about? Just incubate, make
yeah,
eggs? Okay.
just incubate in general. It's been working out powerfully.
Sweet.
Yeah, I don't know how. I didn't do a lot of it myself at the PPR part from Blighted Burbling, but
Well, like I said, if you can incubate on their turn,
yeah,
it's very powerful. Anytime you get incubate stapled to like a removal spell or something like that, because when you're playing
Flash
removal,
blockers. Yeah.
you're trading a card a 1-for-1, right? And so, like, you're not developing the board, but you are removing a threat. So, like, you need removal for big threats, but you can't just only play removal unless you have, like, unless you're playing like hard control. But this kind of offsets some of that if you're just playing a few pieces of removal and you're otherwise like normal deck. Because you're not like losing a whole turn. You can still like, if you have a couple mana left over, right? Or you can do it like you can do an instant with Incubate on it. And then on your turn, you spend the 2 mana, you get a creature that's ready to go. And like maybe you have another cheaper creature to play. Like it seems very like tempo positive to me, right? To get something on the back of a spell you needed to cast anyhow.
Yeah.
Every part of this set, every new mechanic, I mean, Convoke is just like this mana acceleration thing, but like backup, the transform cards that you can pay with Phyrexian, incubate cards, and the battles are all just like these, Marioshka dolls of value, right? Like there's just like so many words that you could get through on the card of like things that you can do, extra steps you can take, extra pieces of like game objects you have access to, extra paths you can take in the game to like spend your mana and develop your board or whatever, or do whatever it is the card says. And I'm wondering if like this is another one of those, we broke the record on how many words are in all the cards, but it does seem to be like a format that lends itself to like big long games and like huge strategic plays, right?
So I will say, I typically can get our pack opening videos down to sub 15 minutes without too much trouble.
This is the opening the pools at the beginning of the PPR.
Yeah,
okay.
And so we film ourselves opening the pools, and then I edit that down. And so I was like my goal is sub 15 minutes because I don't want to eat up a ton of time at the PPR. It was 18 minutes this time.
Okay.
Because it was impossible to get it any shorter because people had so many words to read on some of those powerful rares that they were playing.
Double face cards.
Because it's the double face, because they got to read a whole nother side of text.
Yeah.
And it's relevant, right? What does this card do? Why are they putting it in their deck?
I'm pretty sure the only vanilla creature in the set is Yargle and Multani.
That's so funny.
The 18-6. 6?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's just two Yargles stapled together, right? That's what does Multani get you? Twice as much of whatever you've already got.
Yeah.
That's funny.
So yeah, it's a lot of words. But yeah, the incubate, man,
Isn't there like a backup creature that gives your creature trample?
That's still like 2
Oh,
abilities.
forget that. I got killed earlier
you mean
by
like to combo
Yeah.
with this card. Sorry,
There's
I thought you
a-
meant, like similar vanilla thing.
There's a
Sorry.
backup creature that's terrifying with these two if you want to be in Jund. It's
It flings it, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a vampire, and it has backup 1 and sacrifice this creature, deal damage to any target equal to this creature's power. Yeah, so if you got them anywhere below 18 and Yargle and Multani, then you just back up Yargle and Multani and throw it. Actually, below 19, because you get the backup, it gets a +1/+1 counter.
Oh my
I can't remember the name of the card. It's a Voldaran vampire.
I'd do that even if my opponent was at 20.
Yeah, I think it's two in a red.
Well, I think it gets a +1/+1 counter.
Voldaran
No, it gets 2 +1/+1
Trail
counters.
Seeker. Oh, it's
Right?
exactly enough.
Yeah.
They did that on purpose.
Almost certainly.
Yeah.
Okay, this is a rare. Okay, that's good.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
Frank Karsten pointed this out though. It's like potentially something you want to go for in, I don't know, standard or just draft. But
Yeah.
obviously it's like a little flimsy because both of these cards have to be in your deck, and neither one of them is crazy impressive. But,
Yeah.
you like stitch together, and then 1 more mana, and you deal 20. Like,
I like that you can tell that she's about to kick that Phyrexian's head clean off like a football.
I love that, like, overall, like, Innistrad's like, "Pfft, let's go, jerks.
Yeah. Innistrad's ready for this.
Like, literally, they had an MTG article up talking about how some of the planes did, and they're like, Innistrad was, like, largely unaffected because people are used to this kind of thing.
right?
Yep.
Yeah, it's just a Tuesday on Innistrad or Zendikar, right? Like we also
Yeah.
notice Zendikar is like just another royal explosion, like slightly different color this time.
There's I don't know if it's the signpost uncommon necessarily, but there is a black-white enchantment that at ETB's new Incubate 2, I want to say, and then all it's a Phyrexian Lord. It's all Phyrexians get +1/+1. All the Incubate tokens once transformed are Phyrexian, so it pumps all of your hatchlings, and there's just a huge number of Phyrexians in the set otherwise. So this card's, I think, very strong. Sculpted Perfection. Yeah, so it's Incubate 2, but there's a lot of cards that Incubate 3, and it's just sort of, you don't quite necessarily realize how much more powerful that is when it's like, there's their original spell, whatever they get for it, and then 2 mana, and suddenly it's a 3/3. Obviously if you have this out, it's a 4/4. But yeah, it's very strong. And there's a different enchantment that's black that ETB incubate. I want to say it incubates 3, and when a Phyrexian you control dies, you scry 1.
Right. Yeah, I think we might have seen that one at the PPR. I wanted to echo that sentiment too. Just most cards incubate 2,
Yeah.
but a few of them incubate 3 or incubate X or whatever. Right, here's Gift of Completion.
Right.
So it's an enchantment that incubates 3, and whenever Phyrexian control dies, surveil.
Surveil. Sorry, better than Scry.
Right,
better than Scry, maybe.
Usually better. Well,
Yeah.
similar.
Probably better than Scry.
Possibly better than Scry. But yeah, in a world where it sort of reminded me of when we've had Morph and Manifest. Incubate 2 being fairly present, like on many cases of Incubate 2 on cards that people are playing, like good draft cards or whatever. So then when you have something with Incubate more than 2, it's like quite noticeable. Like we had some PPR boards, I think, that were like, Adam plays this or something, and then it's like, okay, 2 or 3 random Incubate tokens are just held down by this one card.
Yeah.
Whereas they might, otherwise be clocking the opponent really quickly or trading with other 2/2s and then still gaining advantage. So those cards. So watch out for the Incubate cards that have Incubate more than 2, because it's hard to remember that, like, that's going to be relevant. Yeah.
So yeah, I have found I found every part of this honestly to be powerful but like well designed. I don't know, like I enjoyed All Will Be One just fine, but it was like, actually sort of drafting and playing it was kind of a harrowing experience. It was very fast and just sort of like, demoralizing in some situations.
Okay, like when you can die at 10 life instead of like 20 because of poison, and
Right.
like you didn't always get poisoned, but like you could be trucking along and all of that stuff, and then suddenly your opponent gets you up to like 7 or 8 poison counters, and it hasn't really been relevant and you haven't really cared, but now suddenly you have to start making suboptimal decisions so you don't die, right? And it sort of takes you off your game plan, because it's like, you could be at like 14 life and just like ticking along fine, then all of a sudden I have to start blocking like I'm at 3, right? Which is very different, and it's kind of I don't know. And I don't like the flavor of Phyrexians, but I think that's well established.
Yeah. But conversely, this set so far seems like it does have a pretty healthy mix of some very aggressive options, like the blue-white knights, like I mentioned, can be super aggressive. We got rolled by that yesterday. And red-white, as red-white's always an aggressive color combination, but that also there are some, slower, grindier options with big wide board stalls. And I don't know. These are early impressions. Like I said, we played the PPR. Nelson observed the PPR, right? I played a bit yesterday in the early access.
Yeah,
event.
I'm on 0 games here, if anyone's wondering. Yeah.
So these are the early impressions, but it seems like a fun and good format.
I think it's cool from R&D's point of view that they gave us fairly aggressive, fairly quick draft format in one, and now we're pivoting to like more, 5 colors an option, and every color is probably going to take a bit longer to build up their board, and the removal is like present to try to like lean into 2 kind of opposite draft styles, because both will probably be around on Arena, or definitely in your LGS. Like the packs will probably be there if you can get together a pod of people who just want to scrap and like get this thing over with in less than 2 hours, then maybe just fire up the one draft. But if you want to like enjoy your Sunday afternoon, play lots of different,
Exciting games.
interesting and like, long, twisting, winding games where both players get lots of lands and spells, then maybe, Mom is more your thing.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on early Mom impressions before we?
No.
The
flyers are really backbreaking unless you have something with reach.
Yeah.
Like, I would draft them a little
flyers.
bit more highly than I maybe have been. If you can get one in like your
Excuse me.
other color or something like that.
I just want to return to the first thing we said at the beginning of the podcast, that the Multiverse Legends are like pretty nuts sometimes. So we sympathize with anyone and each other for getting crushed by Kenrith or whatever.
Brutaclad.
Brutaclad. There's just like a big pile, and there's one of these in every pack, right?
There's like a red-white creature that like makes your mana abilities cost 2 less. So your Phyrexian flip cards flip for like 1 mana if you're willing to pay the life.
Activated ability.
Yeah.
Is it Zerda? Zera? It's so for my Ikoria.
Companions are
Yeah.
back,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
So the companions are back, and you can play them as companions if you want. Generally, they're just powerful enough to go into the decks. But that fox was like fine in Ikoria Limited. It was
Yeah.
not astounding. It was okay. It's really good in this format.
Yeah.
Because it reduces all your activated abilities by 2, and transforming an incubate token costs 2.
Yeah.
So it's free.
Yeah, you get to do it for free, and you get to flip Phyrexians for like 1 or 2 mana if you pay the life.
Yeah.
I got absolutely rolled by that, and it's red-white, but you can cast it for like double white, so it's in the incubate colors.
Yeah. What's the name of this card? Do you know?
Zerta, right?
Zerta? Yeah, Zerda.
Zerda. Okay, Zerda.
Zerda the Dawn Waker. Yeah, 1 and then 2 hybrid Boros for a 3/3 elemental fox. It's a companion, which is each permanent card in your starting deck has an activated ability. You do not need to run it as a companion. And yeah, activated abilities that aren't mana abilities cost 2 less to activate. This effect can't reduce the mana cost to less than 1 mana. Okay.
Okay, so you can make your incubates cost 1.
Sorry. Your incubates are not free, but they're still much cheaper. And also, it has more text for 1 and tap it. Target creature can't block this turn. So yeah, that was scary. I didn't even with Brutaclad. I didn't even realize, who originally, by the way, is from Modern Horizons. So again, you're on a different power level. You can watch me figure it out at the PPR. I did not realize until I was sitting there that
How big that play was, right?
Yeah, that you can incubate. Right, you make a couple eggs. You don't transform them, just the eggs. And then you play Brutaclad, and the ability. By the way, all creature tokens have haste thanks to Brutaclad. You make a 2/1, and then you pick a token you control, and all other tokens you control become a copy of that token. So I went, okay, everything's a copy of this 2/1. So my eggs became 2/1s with 2 +1/+1 counters on them. So they were suddenly 4 3s.
Yeah.
With haste. And it was like, oh, wait, this is stupid.
Yeah.
And that's the most recent way that I've suddenly hit Kathleen for 18 at a PPR.
This is the PPR's version of the first time someone at your commander table figured out Brass's bounty into Brutaclad was a little bit nuts.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Too many treasures. Why are they hitting me?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, tell us your thoughts. Tell us, this goes up on Monday, so will be just after pre-release weekend, and it hasn't hit Arena properly yet. I think that happens on Tuesday.
Probably the Tuesday.
We don't know. So let us know how your pre-release went, and if you encountered any terrifying bombs, or if it was just a fun format with occasionally powerful stuff. I'd be curious to find out. Before we take off, I have a grump to share,
Right.
unrelated to Mark to the Machine. They had Midweek Magic on Arena, and it was Momir, and it hasn't been Momir in some time.
Yes.
And they
put spells in
ruined
your
it.
Momir.
Yeah.
Oh, is it Mojo instead, or
Is that what it's called?
Well, I don't know. Maybe it's something new, but there used to be like Momir is like a really old MTGO format, right?
Yeah.
It's been adopted on Arena now. But then, not too long after Momir released, they did Momir and Joyra or Mojo, and so you could on your turn. I think you could do both if you want, but it was like pay 2 and discard a land, I think, to get any random spell out of the Joyra avatar, or you can use the Momir, pay X and discard a land, right?
No, that would be more fun.
That was fun and different. No, it's Momir with the Momir avatar. So you pay X and discard a card, and then you get a random creature on Arena of mana value X of however much you paid into the Momir avatar. And previously on Arena, it's been a deck of like 100 basic lands or whatever it is. Now the deck has spells in it.
Yeah, it's got like Mr. Orfeo, like Path of Peril, or
Urtai.
yeah.
It's just got a bunch of
Rip
powerful
Apart.
creatures and spells.
Yeah.
Okay.
and it's sort of
lands,
like
right? Like it's got a bunch
and the lands. It's
Sure.
mostly lands, but then it has a bunch of spells, and everyone has the same spells because
Momir,
everyone
not
has
so
the same
basic.
deck.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know. On the one hand, I appreciate experimenting, and it's interesting. On the other hand, it's literally not Momir. The whole point of
It's
Momir
not
is
Momir
that-
basic,
and
'cause
like,
that was the
and it's
format.
like I know that some people don't like that. Don't like the RNG element of Momir, and I get that, but that's literally the format.
Yeah, don't play Momir if you don't like the
Yeah.
RNG element, right?
Like
that's,
I love that it's just Goof Town,
Yeah, me too.
sure.
and this being like Goof Town, but also these powerful cards that you can reliably get. It's just sort of like,
Your opponent wrathing you in Momir doesn't seem right.
yeah.
Cast Hoverguard Sweepers like a normal person.
Yeah, it was because there are some wraths.
Yeah,
and
no,
it's
they're-
like,
it's
There's a bunch of creatures that wrath, right?
yeah,
yeah, but like they give you like it's like one black, but it's got cleave, so you can take off. I think that's Path of Peril.
Path Peril, yeah,
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
6 mana. I think
Yeah.
for 3 mana, it destroys all the little creatures.
And then
For
it's like
6 mana, it
yeah, it's
destroys
like,
all
but
the
it's like
creatures.
4 black, white if you hit to 6 mana.
Right.
yeah.
So, like, your opponent knowing that they get to do that on your turn or on their turns, like, that doesn't really feel like Momir, right?
Yeah, so it's still the draws are still random, so it's not like everyone starts with the exact same opening hand, but still I don't know. I realize that to some this will make me sound like a curmudgeon, but my argument is it's if you want to do experimenting and stuff like that, that's cool. This is literally not the same format, and it's not why I enjoy playing Momir. So that was my grump. But
They
I
committed away the whole core of the game.
Yeah, I appreciate that you want to try new things, but I don't know, call it something else, I guess. I loved when they brought Momir to Arena, and I'm glad that they do bring it back every so often as they are adding more and more creatures, but oh well.
If you'd like to buy 60 basic lands and one of each creature ever printed in Magic the Gathering,
Oh,
head
God.
on over to cardkingdom.com/LRR. Let them know we sent you, and while supplies last, get a little 1-inch button that says probably my deck's power level is yes.
I think they're onto the Kingdom of Cards placeholder buttons between button waves.
Oh.
So,
We'll get you.
Who
we'll
knows
get them
which
some
button
new
you might
buttons
get.
ASAP.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And of course, this show and everything we do is brought to you by you and your kind support of our Patreon at, patreon.com/loadingreadyrun. And we really appreciate that. But that's going to do it for this week. Until next time, I have been Graham, joined by Kathleen,
Hello.
Nelson,
I was here too.
James is on tech, Heather Kesley is online. Thank you all so much for watching. We'll talk to you next time.
Bye.
Bye.